And it's a great example of how an unseen force can control us. We have a new moon on November 1st. It was mentioned in the last October video, and this is the deep dive. Hello, hello, hello. How is everybody doing? Welcome, welcome. This is G. We're going to take a walk together through the energetic weather for a new moon. October? Nope. November. The November new moon. Kind of has an October kind of a vibration to it. We've got 3 planets on the screen, and we're going to find out what do these 3 have in common for this event. We got Pluto right there. We see Pluto, power, intense power, meaning, deep meaning, purpose. Pluto keywords. It can show us things that have been hidden. It can show us things that aren't real beautiful. Some would describe them as raw and even undesirable. Possibly the ugly parts, like as in the wounds and, those deep vulnerabilities. And if we think of physical wounds, we think of how that can get messy, and there might even be some odor involved. There might be surgery required, like there might be flesh, like just things where some people literally can get kind of queasy over. And we think of things that are, think of something that's rotting, something that's just been buried so below the surface and deep, and it's at the very foundational, very root level. Sometimes I associate Pluto with the weeds as an example. Just the weeds like out in the garden, and how if you see a weed and you pull at it, right, to get rid of it, it ends up growing back unless you get the root of that weed. You got to go get sometimes you got to get the shovel. You get those little prickly ones that you can't get with your fingers. So you got to get the shovel and you got to dig out and actually get to the root. Make sure you pull the whole damn thing out. Otherwise, it just keeps growing. So it's something where we have to dig, Pluto. We got to dig, excavate. We got to unearth, because we got to look. We got to find it. We're searching, but we're like researching, which requires digging. And usually what's revealed is something that's been there for a very long time. Something that's old. Something that is so old, some would say, I don't even know when the hell did that get there? How long has that been there? That's been there since before I even moved here. Like, that is old. Some would say, oh my gosh, that's so old. That's from another time altogether. I don't know what time zone that came on, that showed up in, but that was before my time, type of thing. So we think of the past and the history many times with Pluto energy. We think of possibly people in power with Pluto energy, because it's about power. It's about intense power. It's super powerful energy. It's an energy that goes beyond the material and the tangible. It's not about my brute strength either. I always liken it to soul power. It's somehow, somewhere, this unknown, unseen energy exists. And with it comes this plethora of history, of deep emotions that hold the past. So Pluto does really good in the water signs. And some may be like, well, whoa, what do you mean really good, right? Well, Pluto rules Scorpio. It rules Scorpio. It's exalted, meaning it's like woohoo to the moon and back. Like, it can do absolutely anything in Pisces. So 2 water signs, it's exalted in Pisces, rules Scorpio. So it's comfortable. It's at home there. It's going to do what needs to be done. Pluto represents change. Change. It sees what's at the bottom below the surface, like at the very like the deepest depth you can go, Pluto resides. And it says, "Look." It shows it. It brings it up to the surface. It's think submarines. It's another example, not as in the damn sandwich. I'm talking as in that little thing below the water line. Think especially think of like we think of the below the surface in the water kind of soldier and warrior and the power that's there. Sometimes there's those like nuclear submarines. Now, does this mean that Pluto itself means a nuclear submarine? No. Could it represent that? With a combination of other things? Sure. But essentially, Pluto does, it's below the surface, does great in water, it's comfortable in water, it does have power. Pluto, being the ruler of Scorpio, has a co-ruler, and that's Mars, right? Mhm. So Mars being the co-ruler of Scorpio, this is the planet that is very physical and we can see it's the appearance. It's not hidden at all. It's not hidden. So this is more like the war energy, right? This is more like the soldier that can be seen. But it always doesn't have to be about a war or a battle. Many times with Pluto, Scorpio, Mars, and Pluto together, many times it's that hidden battle. It's the psychological battle, or it's the battle I have with myself internally, psychological battle, however you want to look at that, right? Lots of different ways, lots of different examples you could probably come up with in your life, right? So, Mars being the body and the physical appearance, many times I'll say, well, we don't really see or feel the Pluto energy until that planet Pluto gets really close in the minutes, not the degrees, but the minutes. And it doesn't mean Pluto hasn't been working behind the scenes and below the surface with us. It has been. Pluto has been, but it's more subconscious. It's not physically seen, it's an unseen energy. Mars, on the other hand, once Pluto moves over and gets closer, then we start to see the changes, the transformation. It becomes obvious, it becomes more apparent. Remember, Mars is the appearance, and it is, I'm taking action with something. Mars is literally my body. So those two together are powerful, and also that Mars is born for war. Mars was meant to make some changes, but it can be, it's ready to go, right? Born with a weapon in its hand. So it will defend, it will fight. It's highly impatient. It's always feeling like it's just waiting to get its orders. It's just waiting to get its orders. And then it's ready to pop off, so to speak. They're working very much together because we have a new moon, big change and transformation. And the point of that is that Pluto can change how a person looks, it can change a person's appearance, it can change how somebody acts, and it literally changes change. Like, whatever the change is, like, okay, we've been through this before. We've gone through these changes and transformations before. Well, guess what? There might be one you've never been through before, right? So it can change something that we don't recognize or speak to a change that we are unfamiliar with and might even be fearful of because humans, let's face it, unless we're familiar with it, we're scared of it. And matter of fact, those who have everything to lose by change will absolutely amplify your fear with change. They'll tell you, "Oh no, you don't want that." And that is also Pluto. Most would never associate fear with Pluto energy, but fear is a power that is hidden. And I think that when it gets tapped into and when people trigger it, purposefully trigger it, it it grips us. And if we're not aware that we're gripped and that we're in the, you know, clutches of fear, we might not recognize how we're frozen with that fear. And it's a great example of how an unseen force can control us. What does this all have to do with the new moon? Well, our appearance, our body, and our actions, Mars is all about freedom. Mars is all about fighting for freedom. So we also think of people who, at least in the States, and I'm sure in other countries, but in the States, that's kind of been one of the mottos, one of the things, somebody is like, yeah, I'm a soldier. I fight for our freedoms, right? I fight for our freedom. And there's something that people may, you know, in the United States, to be a patriot has taken on many different definitions. And many would like to say, well, it's subjective, it's all about perspective. Well, to some degree, I get that. But then I think we start playing around with semantics, and I think that's dangerous because I think there's some purposeful intent when people do that around abusing the meanings of words and stretching things. Change and remembering that the fight for freedom goes hand in hand with the fight for democracy. When we think about Pluto and Mars, all this shit is it's all in the same bed together. I can't dissect it and pull them apart and say, well, here's a nice, like, this is what we're going to talk about. It's all part of this, and it's all part of this new moon. And it's a new moon in Scorpio, and it's November 1st, 7:47 a.m. Central Daylight Time Zone. Adjust for the time zone you live in, because new moons are opportunities to be the creator of your own life. And Pluto and Mars are about a new beginning, a new moon, a new beginning with something that's deeply meaningful. And there's a power there, there's a bond there. There just is. We're tethered in some way. And we go down to the degrees of the new moon and we find Scorpio energy. And there it is, 9 degrees. Scorpio new moon at 9 degrees on the 1st of November. And what does it mean for you in your life? It's a new beginning. Anytime we talk about the moon cycles, think either something's beginning or something's ending. And there are things in people's charts where, yes, even on a new moon, you can have an ending and a beginning, because that's kind of how life works. When we have something new begin, well, something ended. And it might be something trivial, it might be something big. But moon cycles are big in general. And you don't need me to tell you that. You look out into the world and, especially around full moons, and everyone's always like, oh my God, what's going on? What's in the water? Blah, 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 right? Lots of different evidence of the connecting factor, the moon power, the moon time. There's a connection there that we do have free will, but we're still going to feel it. And if we're not aware of it, we can be put under its influence, like a big goblet of wine that we're taking a drink of, and maybe not wine in the cup, but maybe something else, right? Something that gives us energy, like Red Bull, right? I think of Mars and Pluto. That'd be like opening the can of Red Bull or Monsters or whatever. I have never had any of those drinks, and I hear so many people talk about them all the time, but they give you your little jolt of zing, right? And Mars and Pluto wanting to make change that's deeply meaningful, something that has to do with the past. There's history here, can be soul history as well. 9 degrees has meaning. Degrees matter. All right. What do we know about the 9 degrees? Who knows some of those keywords? Put them in. Put them in the comments. What are some keywords for the 9 degrees? Because that's part of this. We've got a moon, we've got a sun. The moon mother energy, more water energy, more things about the history and the past and the public, and emotions. Emotions. And what about Scorpio? Yeah, hell yeah, emotions, wounds, vulnerabilities from the past. But it's a new beginning because it's the sun right there with the moon. Masculine energy is the sun, masculine energy. Whenever you get the sun and the moon together, this is a time of creating, literally, which is why we talk about the new moons as opportunities to manifest. New moon time, the law of attraction, when the law of attraction is really strong in your life, especially if you have something within these degrees 2 degrees before, 2 degrees after. We don't show that there's very much else in Scorpio at this time. So if you have something in your chart from 7 to 11 degrees of Scorpio, this is a big deal for you. This is a prime new moon opportunity time to make some meaningful changes in your life. Now, what about that degree? What does that mean? Think about it, but don't just think about it. Ponder on your beliefs. Ponder on shared beliefs, shared values, Scorpio energy. What do we value? Do we value the planet? What are our natural resources? Notice I'm not saying my natural resources, I'm saying ours, because these are things that we all have to share. We have to share the earth. We all share the water. We all share the air and the sun, right? These are things we like to try to splice up and own and divide. But at the end of the day, you ain't taking the earth with you. At the end of the day, it's never yours, right? You just have a bank account somewhere that's got dollars and a deed that's got your name on it. But when it comes right down to it, once you're gone and dead, you're gone and dead, and it stays here. Okay. So it just passes caregivers, it just passes caretakers, it just passes through different hands. Our shared values. And when we talk about our shared values, it can be our shared wounds, our shared tragic stuff that we've been through. Strong emotions about the past. This can be soldiers, people who've gone to battle, any sort of history you have. Think of uh, insurance money. We think of insurances in terms of, well, we had a storm and we need a new roof, and where you might get an insurance payout. There was a lot of damage done, and that's what the insurance is for. Scorpio we speak of as mundane sex, death, taxes, Scorpio energy. But it's a lot more than that, right? I talked to you about Mars and Pluto being the co-rulers. There's something here that's very deeply meaningful, and it reveals things that are at the hidden, right at the bottom below this, like just at the bottom of the ocean, like in places you didn't think to go, you didn't know existed. There was some depth there, making a difference in a meaningful way, right? It's like I'm not doing it for myself. It needs to be something that means something, damn it. It's not surfacey. It's not just for talk. It's not just to make me look good and to puff my chest out. It will help others benefit in some way because Pluto on a really high level is altruism. Altruism. It will root out the rot. It is looking for the rot. It is looking for those that are abusing its power, those who are, stepping on others' heads and pretending to be something they're not, pretending to be doing something that's deeply meaningful. Pluto and Scorpio and Mars take action together and say, it's time to get rid of this. We need to find where is our common bond. Focus, 9 degrees. Single eyed, 9 degrees. Religion, spirituality. What is my idea of justice? What is your idea of justice? Truth, wisdom, freedoms, the ability to explore, the ability to seek out, to go on an adventure. How about being optimistic about my future? How about my ability to learn? How about my access to learn? My ability for extended education and to have extended education, my access to knowledge and information so that I can be well versed, be well read, so that I have been able to immerse myself in other cultures, other beliefs, so that I can understand my neighbor. What about that? Like, where has that gone? Where has it gone? So, this new moon seems like to me, just looking at some of these very bold, basic things, the rulers and the degree of it, that it does have the opportunity to bring healing by a change of beliefs. A healing by a change of beliefs. That might not seem that exciting to people. Some people might be like, oh, whoop-dee-doo. But you just don't understand. There's been a lot of moral injuries, a lot of intellectual injuries and trauma, moral trauma, intellectual trauma, emotional trauma. I'm not in Iran, I'm not in Palestine, I'm not in Israel. I'm not in Ukraine, I'm not in Russia, I'm not in Africa. I am not in Syria. I am not in places of the world where there is typically um, a constant stage of violence and death and destruction going on. I'm just in the States. And I say that kind of lightly because although we may not have that going on, instead we have citizens just killing each other, like killing each other, killing complete strangers many times, right? Mass shootings many times, youngsters, our youth killing us, right? So it's freaky because you don't know who the soldier is. You don't know who the person is that has the wounds because they're hidden, Scorpio, deeply psychological wounds, emotional, intellectual wounds, mentally unstable can be paired up with Virgo energy. And I mention that because at the time of the new moon, we have, if you look carefully, Mercury at 28 in Scorpio, more Scorpio energy. Day before, she would have been at 27. That's a big deal in this chart. And then look at Mars, one of the rulers of the full moon, of the new moon, 29 degrees in Cancer. Cancer, think moon with Cancer energy. Think moon. Yeah. This is the public. This is women, families, homes, the emotions, my childhood, ancestry. And then what about the other ruler of this new moon? Pluto at 29 degrees in Earth. Major change and transformation that has to occur. But healing is the opportunity here. Healing on a deep level. So this new moon provides this opportunity. Scorpio and Mars. So it's Mercury and Mars trining each other, okay, during this event. So if we back this chart up just a little bit so that you can see it, it's Mercury and Mars in a very strong trine. Mercury the day before and even Mars 2, 3 days before, like that week of video was a huge, powerful, grand water trine. So it's like this new moon is the after effect, almost as if we get a new moon early in essence. But likely there will be some follow-up information that comes through, something in the news. Who knows, crazy, who says what and what's being said where. But this 9 degrees, a change, a transformational change that will likely have to do with beliefs for that 9 degrees, um, big picture and focus, right? Not real thrilled. It's strange because I say the word focus, and so that might make someone think detail. The blinders are up. That's the part of being focused that we always have to remember when we talk about 9 degrees. There's a blinder up over here. Think of racehorse and a blinder up over here. So I can't see to the right or to the left. Like my peripheral vision is gone. I can only see what's directly in front of me. That can be tricky because, well, think about if you're driving in a car and if you don't have peripheral vision, that could be extremely dangerous. So we see how there has been lots of dangerous things being said and done because of people's opinions and then applying speech to their opinion, sharing their opinion as though it's the truth. And some of these shared opinions have been quite dangerous. So that 9 degrees likes freedom, likes the options to change its mind, but likes the flexibility to go from left to right or to do a dance, to be in a circle, to have something fresh, but just being able to be on that adventure. The word enthusiasm comes up, travel, experiences. I always say to immerse myself, but to experience something. Idealistic, optimistic, can be kind of on the humorous side. We think wine, we think let's have a good time. Um, and even a little bit of athletic and quite confident, that 9 degrees. And so we always got to be cautious with the overconfidence energy. A little bit of spontaneity is here as well because it's got the bit of fiery with that 9 degree energy, a little bit of fiery. One of the things I love about it is that when it does get focused on something, it has the ability to come with the follow through because it's shooting for that goal, right? It's shooting for it. And it's known to be a marksman, that 9 degrees, right? It's that archer. It's like that that marksman. So it's really good at seeing that goal and being able to have that focus, blocking out what's around it so that it can like zero in and hit the bullseye even. Dreamy and prayer and hopefulness. That sense of optimism about the future, the hopefulness that it can bring, right? So some of these keywords you can apply to dream big for this new moon, but yet realistic because it's Pluto and Mars. And Pluto can be more than realistic. It can also be, it can just, like I said before, show us something that is quite undesirable. But I'm hoping that this combination means that we are dreaming big for this new beginning in a way that it will be deeply meaningful in the long run, that it's not a short term win, that it's really about what's best for the most that are involved, even though we might not be able to accomplish something the best for all involved. But again, we shoot for the moon because you know the rest. That's part of the illusions and the delusions of what can be part of Jupiter, which is why I have Jupiter here on the chart. Because Jupiter, the ancient ruler of Pisces, but also the ruler of Sagittarius. And yes, I'm showing Jupiter because this is where Jupiter is at this time. And this matters. This is the connection. This is how we bring and weave all of this together. Mercury is the mind. Mercury rules Gemini, but Jupiter is in Gemini. And Jupiter, yeah, in Gemini, definitely not just spies and espionage and foreign affairs and foreign actors and foreign diplomats and and foreign governments, uh, not even needing to hire their own people, but using, figuring a way how to psychologically pit United States citizens against each other. Whoa, they've succeeded absolutely. So this is our time. This is our time as citizens to understand what it is that binds us, what it is that bonds us, what it is that energetically has us tethered together as a country, democracy. This connection with Jupiter, my beliefs, with Mars, the actions that I'm going to take based on my beliefs, okay? And then Pluto, are my actions going to be for myself? Am I abusing power? Are these really my actions, or am I functioning under, the cues from somebody higher up, somebody who has something to gain, and their gain is never going to be my gain. But for some reason, I think their gain is going to be my gain. I just don't see the connections as to what they have to gain. But Pluto says it must be an altruistic action. So with this new moon, make it a new beginning for you in your life. If you got any questions, if you don't understand how Mercury and Jupiter and Pluto and Mars play a role in this new moon for you, rewatch the video. Start putting these symbols down in a notebook for yourself. Start writing a list of keywords under Pluto. Put a list of keywords under Mars. Put a list of keywords under Jupiter. Put a list of keywords under Mercury. Find out the house number that it's happening in for you and write those keywords out of that house number and start creating sentences. And you will see the opportunity for change that you have, the healing that you have, and your future is absolutely connected to it. It's an opportune time for healing, understanding, and to have a better tomorrow. All right, guys, that's it. You got questions, comment below. Until then, I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.